pleased to have Joe Madison in the studio with me. JoeMadison.com, his website. He does a radio show on Sirius XM every morning from 6 to 10 in the morning, as I recall. I have that right?
And then
AM,
I
Eastern
listen
time.
to Thom Hartmann after I get off. And
It's always
going from meeting to meeting.
Yeah, it's always great
I've
to
been
have you.
tempted to call in a couple of times.
You should.
No, listen, look at your people. Say, yeah, call. No,
You are beloved here. I got to tell you.
Appreciate it.
Listen, Joe, I just learned, and I probably should have known this a long time ago, and I'm guessing that you did, that Ohio is an open carry state.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the Tamir Rice thing, let's call it the Tamir Rice murder. I mean, I don't think that there's any other word for it. In an open carry state, walking down the street carrying a gun is, if you're an adult, which the police officer said he thought Tamir Rice was.
Look as if he was an adult.
Thought he was an adult.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an adult and you've got a gun that's in plain sight, that's not a reason for the police not only not to shoot you, but not even to stop you.
There was a guy, and I can't remember what state it was. Your audience probably remembers. It was a white guy who carried an automatic rifle through a black community. Barbershop owner saw him, and he came out of his barbershop and confronted him and said, "Well, hey, what are you doing?" Well, obviously, what the guy was doing was, was trying to make a point.
Right.
And the police were called, and the police didn't shoot him. Matter of fact, the police questioned him. He had a right, because it was an open carry state, and let him go. And it was clearly, some yahoo who just thought it was cute to be able to walk down the street in a predominantly black community and try to make a statement. But let me remind people, not only did we have this problem with Tamir Rice, but in my hometown, I'm from Dayton, Ohio, born and reared there. You forget about was it the Walmart incident right outside of Dayton, Ohio? Remember the young man who had a BB gun, and he was in the store, and the police did the same thing that the police did on the streets of Cleveland, and that is they walked in, didn't ask any questions. The guy, once again, if it's an open carry state, then you would say, "Excuse me, do you have a permit for that gun?"
Or if you're in a store, do you intend to buy that?
Particularly if you're in a store. Thank you. In a store that sells guns.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, he's just taking it off the rack.
Yeah, thank you. He's just taking it off the rack. No, I think that this is, look, first of all, Washington Post did a piece just this past week, a few days ago. It was major headlines, where they had headlines, 956 people in 2015 were fatally shot by policemen.
Right. And the Guardian is now saying that number is closer to 1,200.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And the reason, and here's what people need to understand, the reason that you have that gap is because the FBI doesn't require police departments to report fatal shootings. They don't have to.
So they're having to comb through the news records.
That's exactly
LexisNexis searches.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But you have, numerically speaking, white Americans who are being shot by police, mostly in poor, middle class, or lower communities.
Right.
It reminds me of the civil rights activists who would get arrested. They would go to jail in Mississippi or Alabama and throughout the South, and they would say to the jailers, so let's say I'm in prison. I'm in jail, and you're the jailer. Okay. And we're talking, okay? And I would say to you, well, hey, Mr. Tom, the jailer, don't you want your child to go to college? Yeah. How much money do you make? And you're making just barely above what I might be making. And, and don't you want this? And don't you want health care? And don't you want this? And hell, you ought to be in here with me. And that's what I think white America needs to understand, is that don't get divided by Black Lives Matter as if, nobody else matters. That's not the emphasis that,
It's not the point they're making.
It's not the point they're making. This is an amazing thing. So when black people say Black Lives Matter, they're separating. They're saying nobody else matters. Right. But then when a Confederate, neo-Confederate person waves the flag and says the Old South matters, then people don't seem to understand the relationship. I go back to what I said to you last night on RT. It's cultural conditioning. And I'll repeat it over and over again. And that is, in America, we are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior and black is inferior. And the manifestation of that cultural conditioning is that black people are undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. Now, I remember last night you said, well, Joe, that's white supremacy.
Yeah.
Yes. And white supremacy began as soon as the first European stepped foot
on this continent.
Yeah. Now, and what did he do? Or what did they do? They immediately labeled the natives savages. Well, if you go back and look at European history, Europeans were quite savage towards towards each other. Oh, yeah. Religious savagery, nobility savagery. The Romans were savage. We forget, here we are just celebrating Christmas. Nothing could have been more savage than the crucifixion.
Yeah.
And so let us understand it's cultural conditioning, and you have to recondition how we think. I know you talk about white privilege.
Yeah,
white privilege is cultural conditioning.
Sure,
it's part of our culture, and so what happens is a policeman comes into a community, and instead of being a guardian, they're a warrior. We've got to change, and it's not just the black community. It is poor white America that also is being impacted by it, and I'm taking the Democratic Party on because in these urban areas, Cleveland, Dayton, Cincinnati, St. Louis, these are democratically local run cities,
right?
And these prosecutors get elected and endorsed by unions. They get endorsed by Democratic Party. I'm not letting them off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rahm Emanuel is certainly, on that hook big time.
He deserves to be. Yeah. He deserves to be.
Well, it's increasingly looking like, he basically covered up that police murder in order to not make it an election issue.
But you know what? A lot of people in Chicago, when you talk to people from Chicago, and Cliff Kelly is an old, and I say old in terms of longevity, talk show personality. They call him the governor, WVON. Mm-hmm. Just a brilliant mind. He's a former city alderman,
right.
And he knows the politics of. He goes back to the Papa Daly.
Yeah,
he goes way
the
back.
Original Mayor Daley, the 1968 Mayor Daley.
Yeah, the 1968 Mayor Daley that beat everybody over the head in the convention,
yep.
and disrupted the entire convention in 1968. What he will tell you that this is not new. This is intergenerational. Once again, it's cultural. It's become part of the culture, and culture is hard to change. It's
right.
And
there's a police culture in this country.
Oh,
I think people
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, who've never had a member of their family be a police officer, or have never known a police officer, don't realize how really segregated that culture is. I mean, police officers, they refer to the rest of us as civilians. There's a very us versus them mentality.
Yeah, Perry Belts. I'm sorry, Perry. She's going to kill me. But she and I we did a show together, and we were talking about police culture, and she was saying, I tell my son. Peltz, Peltz. And I tell my son, if you're in trouble, if you're stranded, call the police. They're there to help you.
Right.
And she heard black mother after black mother after black father say, oh, no, I have to tell my son, be careful, watch the police.
Right.
They're not there to help you. And it threw her for a loop because her cultural condition.
She was white.
That's right. Yeah, and very prominent former news anchor out of New York, and living in, I believe, maybe Long Island. And then she says, her son is in college. She says, I taught him that from
See, that's the essence of
early
white
age.
privilege, is that white people don't even have to think about this stuff.
See, and you say white privilege, I say cultural conditioning, because white privilege is part of the cultural conditioning.
Right. So how do we change that? It seems to me that step one is waking people up to it.
That's it.
You can't change something until you've named it.
You have to name it, identify it, and then debate it. Because but then you've got a group of people out here, and you probably saw the same story I saw, the news story, that we are in a cycle now that even facts make no difference. You can literally tell people the facts. The sun rises in the east,
right,
and that's the east, and it sits in the west. But if you are not part of the culture of a Fox or a conservative blog, it wouldn't make any difference that they're even looking east and watching the sun rise.
No,
they
Trump
still won't accept it.
Yeah, Trump has demonstrated this. He's like, over 80-90% of the things that he's said as factual statements.
That's right. Disproved. And they don't care.
No, they don't. In fact, they say, well, that's proof that the media is out to get him. I'm even more enthusiastic for this guy. It's bizarre. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.